So the other day we actually had a meeting and there was one young lady that came in and she had a lot of concerns when it comes to height. And I know it's a big concern for a lot of women. So I wanted to go and just talk through it just a little bit more to build understanding. And I know for a lot of people, this can be a little emotional. So I'm really just trying to help you to, get over the gaps of this information because you have to realize what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to teach you how to be a really great dater. I'm not trying to really teach you anything, but help you to get into relationships. And part of getting into relationships is being realistic about actually what's in the world, what's going on in the world, and actually giving you some roadmaps or some ideas or some, just some plans in order to help you find your person. Because you have to realize my goal is to help you find your person and then help you to get married. That is what Christian Singles Connect is about. That is what I am about. And that's what everything we push is about. So it's not me trying to give you a quick tip or a quick this or a quick that. It is a lot more serious than that as far as what I'm concerned. And so if you follow my channel, if you follow Christian Singles Connect, then that needs to be really your goal as well. Because a lot of times when feel like people give me negative comments or whatever, they don't really recognize what the goal is. And the goal is to give you your best shot. And so sometimes we'll talk about things that might not necessarily be popular, but through that information, hopefully you can use it in order to find a person and actually get married. So because the height thing has come up, I wanted to go a little bit more in depth than what I was actually able to do on that particular meeting. And so any woman that sees it can look at this video or, anybody in the future can check this video out. So I hope this is helpful to you. And I hope that you learn something from it and get something from it. But remember, I'm doing this out of love. I'm not trying to hurt you. And I know that this is an emotional thing. So we're going to talk about that as we go through. So I understand that this is emotional. I get it, but I really need kind of your grace in order to help you. So as you can see on the screen before you, if you're watching, on YouTube but not just listening, we're just dealing with height basics. And I left a little Google images up so you can see where I got this information from. Okay, so if you Google average male height, average men's height, you get that men on average throughout the world, that's what that first graphic is about, is throughout the world. Okay, so don't get too scared. The average height throughout the world for a man is 5.6 feet, 5'6" All right. And for a woman, it is basically 5'2". So that is throughout the world. Okay. So we need to kind of get that in our spirit that the average guy throughout the world is just 5'6". And when we look at the average woman height here in America, it is 5'4". Okay. So you kind of need to understand that number and lock in on that number. Now, are there women that the average is different? Yes, there's women in other countries where the average woman's height weight may be taller or what have you. But in America, and I know people do watch me from all around the world, we need to have some kind of base. So when we're talking about around the world, the average height is 5'2". And if we're talking about America, the average is 5'4". So we need to kind of get that in our spirit and kind of understand what's going on. Okay, so that means, ladies, if you are 5'6", you are tall. Okay, you're tall for a woman. You might not think you're tall, but you're tall for a woman. Okay, so 5'7" is not average height for a woman. So if you're 5'7" and you're like, well, where are all the tall guys, whether this, whether that, and you're considering yourself normal, because we love to consider ourselves the average, the normal, the key person. That's how we as people always look at ourselves. However, if you're 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", or above, then it generally tends to be a little bit harder for you because you're actually tall. And see, you might think, well, I'm normal, I'm small, I'm this, I'm that. No, you're not. In the grand scheme of things, a 5'7", 5'8", 5'9" woman is tall. So we have to kind of get this in our spirit and kind of understand it. And, we can see the references where this information comes from. So this is not me lying to you. Okay. And we have to remember that this is not me trying to hurt your feelings. What I'm trying to do is trying to help you. Now, as we go forward from here, okay, I want you to understand something. We talked a little bit about this at that particular meeting where the lady asked the question. See, when you start to deal with what we call the norm, a lot of dating coaches and even pastors and different things like that, what they're speaking to is the norm, i.e., the normal person, okay, i.e., the average person. So when we think about it from that perspective, if you fit perfectly in that norm, so if you're a woman and you happen to be 5'1", 5'2", 5'3", 5'4", you're normal. Okay. That's when you're average. You're the average height. So you fit easily within the circle. But when you are 5'10", 6 foot, and you're a woman, you're an outlier. You don't fit in this normal world. See, a lot of the advice people give you is based upon what is normal for men and or women. And as I have worked with women and men over the last 2.5 years, one of the things that I've learned and I've seen is that the people who have it the hardest are the people who are the furthest from the norm. Now, that does not mean you're a bad person. That does not even mean that I'm even encouraging you to be normal. Okay, I didn't say that. What I am saying is we need to recognize, and you need to recognize where you fit, because that changes your perspective on how you're going to attack life. All right. So as we start to look at this normal thing, as we start to understand this normal thing, we need to know that, okay, if you are 6 foot tall, then you're an outlier. You're over here. You don't fit easily into this nice little square circle. I mean, this nice little circle. And you have to remember that when you're dealing with the average dating coach, what they're 9 times out of 10 talking about is the people who naturally fit in that normal area. So a lot of times when you're listening to their advice, you have to filter it through that information. You have to recognize that they're saying all of this and this sounds great. Why isn't it working for me? Well, they're not catering their information to you. What they're trying to do instead is give general so they can get the biggest audience. But over here, I'm not really that concerned about the biggest our audience. I would rather have 10 women who come and they learn and they grow and they get married and they send me their wedding pictures and I get excited about that, than to have 1 million followers and none of them get married, none of them get in relationships and all of that kind of stuff. So for me, it's really about that. All right. So if we go in, because we're talking about height right now. So if we say at birth, at birth, generally speaking, there are the same amount of men to women. Okay. It might be off like 0.5%. We talked about this in CSC multiple times. We talked about it throughout a lot of videos, and I might do another video about it soon. But what you have to understand is there are approximately the same amount of men and women in the world. Okay. And the distribution of height is about 4 inches difference between men and women, just like we saw earlier up here. The average man is 5.6. The average female is 5.2. In America, the average woman is 5'4". The average man in America is around 5'9", 5'8.5", 5'9". Okay. So there's generally speaking about 4 inches between the average height for a woman and the average height for a man. Okay. Hence where these numbers come from that I came up with. Okay. So what happens is, our 5'10" woman, in her mind, she's thinking, oh, this 6'2" guy's mine. And then this 6 foot tall lady is thinking, hey, this 6'4" guy is mine. But in reality, the world doesn't work that way. Okay. It doesn't work that way for a lot of reasons. So what happens is the 6'2" guy ends up dating the 4'10" woman. And the 5'8" guy lucks up and he gets him a 5 foot woman. And the 6'4" guy ends up with the 5'4", blah, blah, blah. And so what ends up happening is a lot of the taller women end up alone and a lot of the shorter men end up alone. All right. So this is kind of how it happens. And you say, okay, why? Why does it happen this way? Well, again, the lady, that was on the call, we sat and we talked about it, and she described the feeling, okay, because now we're dealing with emotions. She's describing the feeling of when she is with a man who's taller than her, she feels more protected, okay? She feels more secure. And she feels that when she walks around in society, that there are not eyes looking at her in the wrong way, as to say, why are you with that shorter guy? So it gives her a feeling of comfort. And there's nothing wrong with feelings because feelings are valid. Okay. So it's nothing wrong with that. However, we need to understand, how does the 6'2" guy end up with the 4'10" woman? Well, it's simple. There's a lot of things at play here. Some of it could be his own insecurity for being that tall. You might not think a guy that is tall would feel insecure, but that's not always true. Now, I'm not going to go deep into that today. You're just going to have to kind of, follow me on that. That could be one reason. I'm not saying that's the only reason, but that could be one reason. But one of the things that I've noticed, and I've talked to guys and I've talked to women, is that as women, just like women enjoy a tall guy, a guy that they're looking up at, and a lot of women will even say, hey, even if he's beyond 4 inches, even if he's like 8 inches taller than me, that just makes me feel so much better. I just love the guy. I just love to be just so small in his hands. All right. Well, guess what? Guys feel the exact same way. See, when you say, hey, I like to look up at him, I want to feel small in him, men are saying, I love to look down. I like how small she feels in my arms. All right. So there is this attraction between men and women, that men love little bitty tiny women. And women love really big, giant, muscular guys or big guys. All right. So the bigger that distance, the greater that distance, the greater the depth between the two, many times the stronger the attraction. All right. So even though you have this 6'2" guy, he may not always find a 5'9", 5'10", 6 foot tall woman as attractive as he finds a 5'4" woman. All right, because he feels the same thing you do. So the greater distance you would prefer him to be up is the same distance that he prefers you to be shorter. All right. So we have to realize that. See, a lot of times we think, women think, oh, well, guys don't care about those things. Or guys think women don't care about those things. But it's not like that. Okay. Just like all the women watching, y'all, if you've had good orgasms, you enjoy sex. Okay. I'm not telling you to go have sex, but that's a really strong indicator. You understand what I'm saying when I say that, enjoying sex. Okay. There are men out there, believe it or not, that believe women do not enjoy sex. Why do they believe that? They believe that because they were told that, but that's not the reality within women. All right. So it's the same thing. Men feel the other side. So if you like a tall guy, if you like a thick guy, a big guy, men like a smaller woman, a shorter woman, a tinier woman. All right. That is how it works. That is that the further that distance is, the more attracted you are. Okay. The more attracted you are, to that person. And so what ends up happening is the taller women, like I said, many times get left out, and the shorter men. many times get left out. Okay? So here's some illustrations of this. Okay, so these top three are tall men. Look at the distance between Shaq and this lady. And this lady, she has on heels, and he's still taller than a head over. These are all celebrities. So, you can kind of feel comfortable. Look at that gap, between, I could probably talk to her, because like I tell people all the time, I'm right at 5'8" and a half, 5'9". So she might be, 5'4", 5'5", but look at that gap of probably a foot and a half distance. And then you look down here, you got Bruno Mars and Taylor Swift, and she's head and shoulders over him. And Chrissy Teigen is taller than her husband, and we can see here as well. Okay? And so you have this whole thing, I found this online. Every tall guy has a short girl that drives him crazy. Because the bottom line is a lot of tall guys are very attracted to short women for the same reason why short women are attracted to tall guys. All right? So what's going on, and this is the thing that the really trying to, get this home, take this home so you can fully understand. All right? Because this is the problem that you have as you go through your life. There is a time and schedule for a lot of things of life. If nobody's told you that, here's the newsflash. All right? There is a time and date for everything. And sometimes you miss those times and dates. And I'm not going to, like I say, sugarcoat it. If it hurts your feelings, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. What I am trying to do is get you to kind of focus in on right now. And so you can come up with a strategy on how you're going to deal with your dating world. It doesn't mean settle. Okay? I never tell women to settle. I'm always telling women, I want you to find a great guy that you think is super sexy, that you just want to be with. All right? So I'm always saying that. But I need to make sure that we're at a place of reality, and that you kind of understand, even when you listen to men, you understand where their pain is coming from, because their pain is coming from the same place your pain is coming from, but you might not see it like that because you don't care as much, because you're thinking, because I run into women who run into short men. So if a woman's 5'9" and the guy's 5'6", and he starts talking about how he can't find anybody, I don't see a lot of women caring. They don't really care that much. It's like, oh, well, you're short. I'm sorry. Oh, well. Well, that's kind of how men feel with tall women. So when tall women are around, like, oh, I'm 6 foot and I can't find anybody, then a lot of short guys are like, oh, well, you can talk to me, but you won't. So it's the same energy. It's the same pain. All right? It's the exact same pain. So if you want somebody to care for you and care about that side of you, you need to open up that side of yourself and care about someone else. Okay, but anyway, age and time. So say this is hypothetical. And we're talking about our pool of people. So when you're 25 and you come out, hypothetically, we're going into a hypothetical city. So in this city, there's 20 million people that live in this city. So this is hypothetical. So you're coming into this city of 20 million people. Excuse me, all of them are single, and they're all 25 years old. So 10 million of them are men and they're single, right? And of that 10 million, 2 million of that 10 are Christian. 3 million of that 10 are over 6 foot tall. 1 million of that 10 million earns $100,000 a year. I'm just using that as a number. I'm not saying you're looking for a man that makes that. You might want him to make more. You might want him to make less. My point here is he has a job and, he makes enough money to take care of himself. That's my point with the $100,000. And then we'll say that 0.8, not even quite a million, have all three things in common, right? So as we go from 25 years old to 32 years old, and recognize 32 years old is the age when 50% of your single people are going to be married or in a relationship. That is a very important number, because this is the number when people start to panic a little bit, because it's that number where between 25 and 32, a lot of your friends are getting married. You're hearing about people getting married. And if you've been working on your career or if you've been doing something, traveling the world or whatever it is, and I'm not saying don't do those things. This is not me saying don't do those things. But what happens is those men get sucked up. And so these women are out here and they're getting these men. And guess what? The men that have these three things in common are going to go first. So as we get to here and we see that 50% of the men are gone, what we see is there's more that's gone, they have all three things in common, i.e., most of the types of men that you want it's even fewer of them. You didn't lose, you lost more than half. Because guess what? The good people go first. The good guys, when women see a good guy, they own them. You might be looking at that woman like, oh, she thirsty, she this, she that. And she like, no, I'm willing to do a little extra to get this good man. All right. So what happens is you're losing these guys. These guys are coming out of the dating pool. And if they're a truly good guy, they're not going to cheat. All right. Good guys don't cheat. So then you get to 40, hypothetically. And you got 4 million single men still around. Okay. Because the big jump is from 25 to 32. But again, you're starting to lose the good men. More good men leave than any other time. Because see, the good men are always going to go first. They're always going to go first. Okay. Who wants to be with somebody that's selfish, that's ugly, that ain't got no money? That dude is over in his house crying the blues because he can't get no woman. But the man who has everything going for himself, he gets the woman very quickly. All right. So as you go from 32 to 40, more of these really, really great guys are coming out of the dating pool. And then you start to head towards 50, and it's even worse. Now, this does not mean to give up. I'm not trying to be pessimistic in all of this information. What I'm trying to get you to understand is when you have a really great chance with a guy in front of you, you need to really come up, like I said, have that strategy, figure out what you want to do. See, this is not something I can tell you. I can't tell you what to do with your life. Okay, nobody can. So if you are a woman, and this was the question I posed to the lady last night when we actually had the meeting, because she's 5'9". So she's 5'9", and if a guy pops up and he's a really great guy, and let's say he's 5'10", does she talk to him? He has everything she's looking for, except he doesn't have the extra 3 inches of height. She could say, well, I'm going to hold out and I'm going to try to wait and see if I can get this again, in a little bit better body, blah, blah, blah. But what happens is over time, more and more men are being taken out of the dating pool. And you're getting left with the leftovers. All right? I'm just being real. I mean, think about it. You want good guys. Don't you think the other women around you want good guys? Everybody wants the good guy, right? Really attractive, tall, has a little bit of money, has confidence. That's the guy you want. And guess what? Every other woman wants him too. So when you have a guy in front of you and he's like 95% of what you're looking for, but he doesn't have those 3 inches, that's kind of what I'm saying. It's like you have to make that decision on whether or not that is that important. All right? You have to make that decision. And trust me, for guys, it's the same way. Like I say, I'm 5'8.5", 5'9", and I have dated women that are 5'9". I have dated women that were 5'8", and I've even tried to talk to one woman that was 5'10". Now, I still prefer women that are shorter than me. I'll admit that. Okay? They feel better. They feel smaller. It feels good. It feels right. But then if a woman is perfect and she's 5'7" or 5'8", I'm not going to throw her away. I'm going to be like, okay, we can make this work. Okay? Now, there's a huge difference in this because this was brought up as well. You know, women were talking about things like Napoleon complexes. All right. Every man that is under 5'9" does not have a Napoleon complex. Okay. That's really important for you all to understand. Every man that is down here don't have that. You're always looking for a man who's confident in himself. If he's not confident in himself, I don't give a flip if he's 6'5". You really need to leave him alone. But I understand the desire for women to have tall men. I have seen women bend over backwards to get to tall men, men that didn't have anything going for themselves. They was broke. They had 3 and 4 and 5 kids by different babies' mamas and all of this other kind of stuff. And the physical attraction was so important to them that they were willing to put up with all of that and try to rebuild on all of that just because he's taller. So if you decide to go that route, you know, God bless you. You know, I will always support you because my goal is to support and help. But I just want to make sure that I try to identify, you know, some of the things that women are going through, some of the things that you're thinking about. And remember that men are going through these things too. Whether you care about it or not, they're going through these things too. So I'm just putting it out here for you to understand how this thing works, right? So this is not me really saying one way or the other. This is me just really giving you a huge waft of information. And you have to take that information and take it in whatever direction you want to go. But at the end of the day, you have the information. You can use the information to help you and to bless you. All right. Thanks. Please like and subscribe. And I'll see you all next time.